Hello, everyone. Kira Schaefer here, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode of Voices of Wisdom. And today we have Ghenet. Ghenet is with us, and I am so incredibly excited. She has been a part of our author community and writer community for a number of years. And to really tell you, she has such sweet energy, such kind energy. She has such a warm heart, and she has this ability to help bring us into wellness in a way that helps connect us deeply with nature. And she even has science to back that up, guys. So I want to welcome her with all of my heart. And if you have comments, you have questions, please feel free to put them out there. I want to hear from you. She wants to hear from you. And I am so excited. So help me to please welcome Ghenet. Hey, Ghenet!
How are you?
Good.
Here.
Yes. So I told them about your heart. You tell them more, at least that's my opinion. And you tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hi. So yes, I am a transformational life coach, and I use my modality that I use is nature connection. And I work mainly with people who are just getting started on some sort of life event change. And usually that change is weight loss. And I found that to be for myself as well, because I think that's kind of, we can figure out the numbers. We know, okay, I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way I feel. What's the one thing I can do to change something in a tangible way that I can get my hands around? And for me, it was my weight. And so through that exploration, I started being outdoors more, taking walks, and just ending up falling in love with nature. And so that's kind of where I meet people when they're at that point where they're making some sort of life change. And I take them outdoors, and we go hiking, we go walking, we'll do full moon meditations, and we start to open ourselves up in a way that is different than, your everyday, well, let's just count some calories. And we really get down into the root of our dis-ease within ourselves and what our bodies are really trying to communicate to us. Because by the time we see something in our bodies or in our life that we don't like, that is just the external, the final draw where we are just aware of it. That issue has been there, for years or months or whatever it is. Our bodies have been trying to tell us, spirit has been trying to tell us, your higher power has been trying to tell you. And then finally we're like, I need to lose 50 pounds, or I need a new job, or whatever it is, that all of a sudden just clicks. I have to change something. And so I have found that outdoors is a very good way to do that. I call it the first creation, because nature was here before us, the planets, the stars, the galaxy, and it is the to me, God's first love before us. And then we came along, and he gave it to us, he shared that with us. And so it is something that I feel really connects us with higher power, with our inner selves, and with who we truly are meant to be.
Absolutely. So beautiful. That is so beautifully said. I've struggled on my own journey when it comes to weight loss, and we do have those tipping points where it's like, okay, what has to change? So I am going to step back. And if you have any questions out there, please put them in the comments as Ghenet is talking. And I'm going to pop up a few questions myself, because I have a lot that I would like to learn as well. And Ghenet, take it away.
Thank you. So I really believe that there are lessons in nature that we can learn that we can't learn anywhere else. Just by the way our planet is built. when we are out in nature, we're able to kind of slow ourselves down, to look at the world in a different way, and to really step outside of our comfort zone, outside of our daily lives, and to step back and realize that this is a place that is ancient and old. When you're out walking around trees that have been there, that were old before you were born, that's really amazing. The things that that tree has seen, the things that on a cellular level, it's experienced throughout the world. All of those experiences are there. And not just in, I love the forest, I love mountains, but it's, when you go out to the ocean, just think of the things the ocean has seen throughout the centuries. And just, you can feel it. When you get out there, you can feel all of that. And there's a lot of anecdotal science around why nature is good for you. I love to read that. I love to know a lot about the science of it. Mostly for me, when it comes down to it, I just want to look at how it's affected my life personally. And so I started on a weight loss journey a number of years ago because my whole life was out of control. There were a lot of things that were not right. I couldn't control things, and I could control my weight, as I mentioned before. So I also had a lot of health issues. So I have early onset Hashimoto's disease, gallbladder, reactive arthritis. And I didn't know that's what it was until recently. But years ago, I would have lots of joint swelling. And so I couldn't do the typical diet or the typical go to the gym and get my heart rate up, because that could just trigger an episode. So I found this thing called walking for weight loss. And so that's what I did. I started walking, and I would walk inside, I would walk outdoors in my neighborhood. And then that space became too small. It was too restrictive. And even so, being outdoors, I would go early in the morning and watch the sun come up, and I would have my headphones in because I would listen to music. It was very new to me. I listened to music while I was out there. And then eventually I found a neighborhood park, and so I would go to the park, and that was just amazing. There was a river close by, and I would walk down to the river, and just had time to think. And I think that we as people, just as a society, just because of how busy our lives are, we have work, we have children, we have spouses, we have family, we have obligations in our day-to-day life. We really underestimate the value of having time to just think with nobody else influencing our thoughts. And being able to do that really helped to put a lot of things in my life in perspective. And a lot of it had nothing to do with pointing the finger at anybody else, but really looking at my own choices and the things that I was allowing to happen in my day-to-day life, whether it was at home, whether it was at work or my school life. These were things that I had to come face to face with. And being in nature was a very gentle way of doing that, because I was just walking or talking to myself or listening to my music, and then I was observing, and my brain was just taking in the scenery. My body was breathing in the fresh air and the natural minerals that are coming from the sun, from the water. There's no ocean here, but I live in Nashville, Tennessee, so we have lots of rivers and lots of creeks. So a lot of water element is around, and I was able just to kind of get outside of myself and into something else in order to start making small changes in my life. And I did. I mean, it took me 2 years. I lost 50 pounds. It took me a little bit longer to deal with some of the deeper issues. I feel that I hate, I don't really like to say lost 50 pounds. I learned that in the class. I released 50 pounds. I released, 50 pounds of negative energy that I was holding on to. And then once I was able to release that, then I could dig a little bit deeper and get down into some of the other issues that were going on in my life personally. And that's when the real work happens, within ourselves. And that's when I have to make a big decision. I actually have a really big decision coming up in the next week or so. And I know that I need to get out. I need to go out to Stone Door, and I need to sit on the edge of the mountain, and I need to meditate at sunrise and pray and think and journal, so I can get the answer that I need, the answer that is going to bring me to the next right step. One of the analogies that I like in nature is the lessons from a mushroom. And when you're out, and there's a lot of like these tabletop mushrooms all over, there's so many mushrooms, I don't know the names of them. I wish I did. I need to learn more about them. But you see sometimes these little mushrooms and they're by themselves. And so you think, oh, the cute little mushroom, and you walk along and I take a picture of it. But then I was reading an article about mushrooms, and that actually mushrooms are actually never alone. Even if you see one by itself, underneath it is attached by a networked series of fibrous tubes to other mushrooms. So you may see one mushroom here, but there are several others that it is actually physically attached to through the soil. And so that made me think about my own self, my family relations, and the people that I have involved into my life, because we are all connected. Sometimes I think of myself as alone, and sometimes we think of ourselves, we're walking this journey by ourselves. We're a single parent, or we're single and going through college, or whatever our stage of life is. Or you could even be in a partnership and just feel alone. But we're actually not. We are very connected to other people. And how they respond to us and how we respond to them informs our life decisions as well. It also informs how we feel about ourselves. I saw that there was a question, but I'm not sure how to bring it back up again. Let me see. Oh,
All right. So she popped off. She'll pop back on it in just a second. But I love that analogy that she's talking about with the mushrooms. How cool is that? We are connected, and we do find this all the time in nature. Here she is.
sorry about that. I was trying to read the question. I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Don't worry about that. It's actually not any questions coming up.
Oh.
I was just, people are making some comments saying very interesting subject. We are all connected, that kind of thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And, so it's, so what was I? Yeah. So we're talking about the mushrooms, and we're all being connected. And then, as we go through stages in life, we learn things, and we might be uncomfortable where we are in one space. But then as we continue to walk through that journey, we become more comfortable. And there is a spot where I live, and the hill goes up. It's not too, I'm saying this now, it's not very steep. It's maybe about 60 to 75 feet of an incline up. And there's a little bit of a drop off on one side. But the first time I climbed that, it was like I was going up Mount Everest or something. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so far down. I don't know if I can make it up this narrow trail. What if I fall? And then when I took my children up there, after I had gotten used to it, that was a whole nother nerve-wracking thing. I wanted them to experience it. I want them to love nature the way I do. And, but it was just like, don't jump, walk, no running. It was a constant, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. But I went up there the other day after not having been up there for a couple of months. And I couldn't, where I am now, I could barely even recognize that feeling of fear. that I had, or that, nervousness going up that hill the first couple of times that I went. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. We grow, we learn, and something that for us in one moment seems so pressing and so daunting, if we can just stick through it, stick with it, we can get through it. So those are two of my lessons from nature that I like, that I kind of keep around with me always, to remember that I'm always connected, even if I feel that I'm alone, and that no matter how daunting something is in this moment in time, if I keep with it, keep doing the next right thing, keep climbing that mountain, keep doing one step, one foot in front of the other, I will eventually get to the other side of it and really and really overcome whatever it is I'm feeling. And I'm going to look back one day and say, oh, well, that was nothing. So that is, I feel like, to me, that is one way in which nature has really, really opened me up to explore new things, and to be brave and to have courage. One of the things that some people have asked me is, have I always enjoyed being outdoors? And I'm not going to lie. I was a city girl. I was born in Long Island, New York. We moved to Queens, and then we moved to Sunrise, Florida. And I've lived, in different areas of South Florida, concrete jungle everywhere. Nature is the beach or the Everglades. I'm not a huge beach person. I do love to visit the beach now, but I don't live there anymore. And I can't say that I'm a big Everglades fan either. So I was not in any way wanting to explore the outdoors, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. As a child, yes. As a child, I was outside all the time. I was riding my bike. I was climbing trees. I would climb our jacaranda tree a couple of days before a hurricane hit. And that's like the best time in Florida. There's like no humidity. It's balmy. It's beautiful. I would just climb up in a tree and read a book, or, and I remember I was outdoors all the time. But as I became an adult, things like the heat, the mosquitoes, I just didn't want to be outdoors. And it wasn't until I moved to Tennessee that I really started to fall in love with the outdoors, because my place wasn't the beach. My place isn't really the heat of summer. My place is not in the Everglades. My place is in the mountains. And so I found the nature that I love happens to be where I can climb hills and walk trails and sit by the river. I love the changing of the seasons. I hike, and I do a lot more outdoor things for myself personally during, fall, winter, and spring. And then right now it's 83 degrees and I'm just dying. It's so hot. I'm like, oh, but so I'll go out early in the morning, or I'll go later on in the afternoon as the sun is going down. Those are my preferred times to go out. And so I was not always very comfortable being outdoors, especially in the summer. So when I'm encouraging people to start a journey of being outdoors and connecting with nature, I always tell them to start where you're comfortable. And that might take a little bit of trial and error, like figuring out where you're comfortable. You might like beaches, you might like rivers, you might like the woods, you might like arid desert. I mean, there's so many different ways to engage with nature. Find where you're comfortable, and then start doing the little things to make you comfortable in that environment. My first introduction to being outdoors a lot was with working with children outdoors. I was a preschool teacher, and I felt like everybody else was more naturey than I was. Everybody else was more used to being outdoors and digging in the dirt, and I would feel really silly being out there, because I've got my hat on and gloves, and I've got my boots and my long socks, and I was really just protecting myself against nature, because I was from the city. It was very uncomfortable. I loved it, but I wasn't going to be the one to pick up worms out the ground. It just wasn't going to be. But it's okay. I didn't want to pass that discomfort on to the students that I was working with. And so the more comfortable I felt in my own body outdoors, then the more comfortable I knew the children would be also outdoors. And so my suggestion would be, if you need to wear the big hat, wear the big hat. If you want to put on the long pants and the long socks, I mean, I do. I put my hiking socks on. I don't want to be bitten up by mosquitoes. Do it, and then do it a little at a time, maybe put a timer on for 10 minutes, go on that hike, come back out, sit outdoors in the shade and, do a little journaling, just little things, little by little, to kind of get you involved with being outdoors in the way that makes you comfortable. And then eventually you will start to feel more grounded and more connected and be able to do more and more outdoors.
Cool. Sonia has a question here, and I have a couple questions for you too. I needed to hear this today. Let me pop this up here. I needed to hear this today. I need to reconnect with nature. I need to lose weight and I find keeping discipline is hard. Any suggestions, please?
Oh, yes. So I would take away the stress of needing to lose weight and then change that script into your mind to the first one, needing to be outdoors in nature more, because the losing weight will come naturally the more you're outdoors, the more you connect. So, take your timer and put it on for 10 or 15 minutes and make a plan to go outside 2 times a day for 10 or 15 minutes. And then by the end of that time, you've walked outside, you've taken some pictures of birds or, whatever it is flora you have in your area, trees, logs that you like. I love sticks. So I collect sticks or rocks, and things like that. And you spent 15 minutes, being a kid, basically. But you also spent 15 minutes burning 100 calories, you spent 15 minutes not sitting or being sedentary, in that moment. And then if you just do that like twice a day, and you plan to do it at least to start with 3 days a week, then you're shifting the stress of I'm doing this to lose weight to I'm outdoors and I'm connecting with nature. And then eventually the other parts will come along with that.
That's such a huge piece. My husband and I, we said we want to lower inflammation. That we didn't say we want to lose weight. We didn't, any of that kind of stuff. We just said, I want to reduce the inflammation through the foods that I eat. And then we reduce the inflammation. And then as a result, he lost 40 pounds. I've lost 35 pounds in the last year.
That's
so
amazing.
It's exactly what you're saying. Like you're so right. And I love that that's the advice you gave. That's so cool. And Sonia says, okay, thank you so much. You have inspired me. Yay.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was saying, and walking and being outdoors is such a low impact way to work your body out. So you're not just getting the spiritual, mental health benefit of it. You're also getting the physical benefit of it because you're moving your body in a way that you don't necessarily get to move it when you're just walking on a treadmill. And I'm not saying anything against gyms. I go to the gym 3 times a week, at least. When school lets out, I'll probably go 5 days a week. I try to go 2 sessions when I can because I really enjoy my gym. I really enjoy the HIIT class sessions. However, when I go to the gym, I'm in a very controlled man-made environment. I mean, it's what it is. Yeah. Nature is not controlled. I can't control nature. It is what it is when it wants to be, so
right.
Yeah. It's just, and it's, if I go out on a hike, I can never walk the same trail twice. ever, you know, and it is technically the same trail, but something has changed.
Yeah.
A rock has shifted, the wind has blown something one way or another. You know, leaves have fallen a different way, animals have moved things around. So your brain constantly has to be on the lookout for I don't want to say dangers, but it needs to be on the lookout for obstacles.
Yeah.
And that's what our brain does best. Our brain wants to protect us. And so in our everyday life, I know sometimes we've heard of the fight or flight syndrome that people have in their day-to-day life. We have no way of getting rid of those chemicals that come out in our body when we have that sensation of like being under pressure from work, and it's causing that same reaction in us as if we were running from a saber-toothed tiger back in the day, but then we ran or we fought it. And so all of that adrenaline, all of those cortisols were taken care of because we reacted, but we don't have that in our everyday life. So when we're outdoors in nature, our brain gets to do what it does best. It gets to protect us.
Yeah.
And we get to go out and, you know, if I am running on a treadmill, it's not the same as running on the trail or walking on the trail, having to step over rocks, step over leaves, or if I'm going down a steep slope to get to the basin of the waterfall, I have to be very careful. I'm using all of my body muscles, but I'm not really thinking about it, you know? So it's just a different type of body physicality that you get when you're outdoors than when you are, you know, doing, you know, gym work or a home workout, or even just, you know, walking around your block at home.
Yeah.
So.
Herbie, yes. Oh, and she's saying, yes, noticing things that are beautiful too.
Yes.
And being mindful.
Yes.
Very true. Herbie is mentioning something really, I think, important here. I lose some weight in the summer by being outdoors and gain it all back and more in the winter. Do you
Right.
have anything on that cycle, that seasonal cycle that we kind of go through with nature?
So part of that is very natural, that our bodies, you know, especially if you live in climates where the winter is cold, you know, you're not living where it's temperate all year long. Our body chemistry is made so that we naturally retain fat during the winter. Is part of how we survive throughout, you know, millennia. So part of that is natural. And then some of it is psychological. Some of us don't like the cold weather. I'm the oddball out. I will go hiking in 20 degrees, you know. But it is, you know, finding things that we can do to keep active outdoors, even in the winter. And to be active outdoors in the winter means to be very conscious of your gear, you know. So you can't wear the same sneakers that you wear in the summer in the winter. You've got to have, you know, something with more insulation, double up on the socks. You have to have the right layers. I rather start off warm and strip layers off because it's easier for your body to cool down when it's warm. It is very difficult for the body to warm up if it's cold. You know, it just really is. And you can get hyperthermia in 100-degree weather if you're in 80-degree pool water, because your body is dropping below that 96 point whatever it is it's supposed to be. So we really, when we're outdoors in the wintertime, we really need to be very careful and be very mindful of how we gear our bodies up. So like, again, you know, I've been on the trail and I've got my gloves and my boots and my wrap and everything. And some of the guys are like running, you know, in their shorts, you know, because they're used to a different thing. And they're like, oh, you look like you're going to Alaska. And I'm like, yes, I do. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm taking care of myself the way I need to take care of myself.
That's right.
And then, you know, and there is nothing wrong with upping your gym time in the winter. You know, there's nothing wrong with that either. But yes, it that is very, very typical, you know. And then especially like I had a knee injury last year when I found out. Yeah, that was the reactive arthritis, and so I had to stop everything. Like I couldn't even walk outside. So things like that really do have an impact on your weight. And then it's very, you can't beat yourself up about it, because, it's really hard for our bodies to go from doing something consistently and then we stop. And then it has to readjust, and so it's just our bodies are constantly trying to work with us with what we give it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you and I were talking about, well, you were telling me about some brain science
Oh, yes.
around when it comes to fitness, how that actually affects the brain, the neurons and the cells and all these things. I want to hop off here and just let you go into it. I'll throw up some of your visuals as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes. So our brain physiology is quite unique. And so the shape of the cells, and we have many different types of cells in our body, but specifically our neurons are very different in physiology than our just our regular human cells in our body. And then Kyra is going to put up a neuron in just a moment. So yeah, so you see it here. You have this all of these dendrites, and you have synapses, and you have the myelin sheath that's covering the axon. And the way a neuron, and then if you'll show the other one really quick. And so this is, the typical human cell in the body. And so you can see the difference. Our neurons are really made to connect to other neurons. They are created in a way that they connect to other neurons, and then they adapt different pathways within the brain. And it's constantly changing, and our brains are constantly learning. So all of the cells in our bodies reproduce. Our skin cells, they say every 7 years you're a new person. You're never the same person physically that you were 7 years from now, because all of our cells in our bodies change. That's how we continue to develop. That's how we grow. And when our cells change and they don't replicate exactly, that's when we come into aging and disease and other things that affect the human body. But our brain cells are quite different, because they do not replicate the same cell over again if we're not using it. So if we're not using a certain type of brain cell and information, our brains are designed to get rid of junk data. Just like when you have a hard drive and you've got a lot of stuff on your computer and it's running slow, you have to go through and clean it out. Our brains do that automatically. So it will just get rid of neurons that we're not using, and it will close off pathways if we're not using them. So the great thing about being outdoors and working with nature is that kind of like what I was talking about before, about our brains getting to do the job that it does best, which is protect us and help us look for things. And it literally is forced to create new pathways all the time, which then allows our brains plasticity, and it allows it to grow and stay healthy and stay young. It is so important for our cognition that we are always introducing new experiences to our brain, which is why they tell you to learn a language, or to visit new places, to go to museums, to read a lot. They say crossword puzzles are really good for that. I love crossword puzzles and word searches, and trying to figure out what is that game? The Wordscapes game, where you have to figure out what letters go where to make words. And all of those are really good for cognition. And those are very good man-made ways of increasing cognition. But nature just does that naturally, and you don't have to think about it, because you're out there, your brain is exposed to different sensory experiences. So you have to look out for the weather, and it has to interpret the sounds that you hear. It has to interpret the things that you see, and the things that you're feeling in any given moment, in order for you to safely move through whichever environment that you're at. So one of the ways I like to think about it is to just take a moment and visualize your place in nature, whether it's the beach or a river or the forest or the mountain, wherever it is that you like to go or that you think that you would like to go. And think about that. And now visualize your everyday environment that you're in. Now, if you work outdoors, this might be a little bit harder. So what I would do is visualize you being outdoors, not working, not having to do your job. And think about how you move through your day-to-day environment, the kind of tools that you have to pull in to make it through, the tools that you have in your toolbox to make it successfully through a day, the decisions you have to make. Think about those things. Now try to take those same tools with you outdoors, climbing a mountain. Take those same tools with you on the beach as you're walking into the water, dealing with the waves. Try to take those same daily tools with you into a kayak on the river. You can't. You have to absolutely use new and different tools to get through that experience. And that is what nature provides that no other environment within four walls can provide. And I just find that really amazing. I really do, because it just helps our brains to function at an optimal level. If you don't use a muscle, it atrophies. And that part of us, I feel, maybe global's a little too severe, but on a very large scale, that part of our selves is atrophied. We spend a lot of time talking about our environment and taking care of our environment and pollutants and the hole in the ozone layer and what kind of light bulb are we going to put inside our house so that we're not destroying the environment. But really, it comes down to, do we care enough about our environment to just do the simple everyday things that it takes to keep our environment healthy? And one of the ways that we care for something, or that we develop a care for something, is by engaging with it. When I was younger, my father told me no one can ever take care of something of yours the way you can. And I didn't really understand what that meant. And it was like a Chinese proverb or something. And but as an adult, and as I walked through this journey with nature, I've come to understand that more. Because if I were walking through any of the four walls, so when I'm talking about four walls, I'm talking about my gym space, my home space, my work environment, or the mall, I would never imagine walking through the mall, eating something, and then just dropping the litter on the ground. I would never do that. I would automatically look for a garbage can or hold that with me. I would never walk into my gym and just throw stuff on the floor and not clean up after myself. And, you know, when I'm visiting someone's home, I would never just throw my stuff everywhere and just leave it. And that's because we take ownership over those places. But for some reason, we are not able to take ownership over our environment in the same way. And, you know, it pains me when I go for a walk, or I go, you know, on a trail in the mountains and I see garbage everywhere. It pains me when I'm driving down the highway and I see garbage thrown. I'm outside of someone's car, just on the side of the road. And it's because we don't engage with our environment. What we engage with are four walls. And we cannot take care of an environment. We can't believe that we are ever going to make the real change that needs to be made in order to have a sustainable future if we live in separation from nature, because it's not possible to really care about something without engaging with it and without learning about it and without understanding it. And we don't get to that point until we are engaging and learning and understanding nature by being in it and being one with it. So that don't know how I got there, but that's one of the one of my big calls for being in nature, is not just that it's going to help us physically, not just that it helps us mentally, but we really live in a symbiosis with nature. It takes from us the same way we take from it, and it relies on us to care about it, and it relies on us to support it the same way it supports us, just by being there. So I think that's all I have for today. Are there any more questions or comments?
I love you. I'm like quoting you all over the place. We live in a symbiosis with nature. This, I love it. Take ownership over our environment in the same way we take ownership over our homes and four walls. We develop care for something by engaging with it. That segment, even though you were like, oh, where did that come from? It came from Mother Nature is where it came from. Hello, Gaia. How you doing, girl? That is just so incredible. It's such a different way of looking at it too, because it's like, yeah, I recycle, but do you spend any time just being with the birds? I've been digging my birds lately. Like, they have just been like flying around. I'm like looking at them. I'm like, what are you doing? I probably look like the, crazy bird lady down here in my apartment complex. A bird will land on a fence, and I'm like, bird, what you doing, girl? Like, it's crazy.
Animals have such personality. They really do. When you take the time to like really watch them,
they are a mess.
Yes, they are. And then you just see them, like the squirrels playing with each other, chasing each other up the tree, and and even the birds, the way they interact. It's really incredible. I think that we have part of our ego, I don't know if that's the right word, but part of what makes us human is to kind of think that we are the only ones that do certain things. And it's true. I mean, we right. It's true. But on a level, our animals do some of the same things.
They fight. They get irritated with each other. They flap their wings at each other. They will kick each other out of a tree. They will. And then sometimes they're like, hop, hop, I'm going to get close to you. Hop, hop, I'm going to get close to you. And they're like, don't you want to come close to me? It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
The pandemic has really affected me, I think, in a good way. Teresa is saying, this is great information. I'll look at my environment and my engagement with my environment with more thoughtfulness. Thank you, Teresa. I think it's really beautiful. Yeah. I think we all can do that better. Because I think the natural result then would be, oh, it's not just in my four walls is my home. Everywhere is my home. And it feels natural to do all of those things that are systematically in place for us to take care of our landfills and, buy different type of laundry detergent and, all those kinds of things like you were talking about before.
Yeah.
I love this topic. I love what you represent, how you bring your wellness wisdom to the world. I really appreciate the things that you have said yes to, in order to just yes to yourself, yes to nature, yes to incorporating nature into your life to help other people as well. So thank you for stepping into that and being with us in that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, always. Is there any last things you'd like to say to our friends here before we pop off?
Um, just get outdoors, enjoy nature, follow me.
Yes.
Follow me. You know, just keep connecting with nature and live your best self. You know, whatever that means for you. And I know it sounds cliche, but really by being the best that we are for ourselves, we can be the best for others around us.
Absolutely. How can they get in touch with you? I'm going to put it in the comments. I think I have it in the description, but.
So you can go to my website. It's strongereveryday1111.com. You can also, I have a Facebook page. It's called Advent Nature. So you can look that up as well. And let's see, I'm doing an event at the end of May. It's in Nashville, the Nashville area, but it's an outdoor workshop. So I'm doing that with 3 other lovely ladies. We're going to do hiking and yoga and forest bathing and doing some group work outdoors. And it's just going to be a day of wellness, connecting with nature. Basically, you know, to find those things within ourselves that we can either improve upon, or that we want to change, you know, just getting in touch with ourselves, but then also doing that kind of physical body work. And then we'll also have a nutrition segment in there as well. So.
All right. I'm just going to get that link up that you gave to me.
Okay.
If my.
Our love-hate relationship.
I know.
Technology.
Technology.
Yes.
Oh, it gets me. It gets me. I will post that later. But I am excited for your event, and I'm so grateful. Let me just say again, Stronger Every Day, 1111.com. And then it was Advent Nature. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I do that? Advent Nature.
Yeah.
Just type it in and find her there. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Ghenet, thank you so much for being with us. Don't get anywhere because I want to talk to you behind the scenes. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another beautiful, amazing voice who is going to speak to you about, we're going to talk about fear tomorrow with Herbie. So I'm very, very excited about that one. And so thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.